Good afternoon to all of you, and a very warm welcome to this panel debate on cross-border commerce sustainability. My grandmother was born in January 1905, my late and beloved grandmother. Since then, the annual global consumption of material resources has increased exactly 14-fold in this period of time. And it is forecasted to double by 2026. 3 years ago, ecom-.com published a paper titled "Going Green in Marketing is Gold for Online Retailers." Today, only 3 years later, the title of that paper would probably not be the same, I guess. Sustainability is not anymore a mere marketing communication tool. The last McKinsey survey on sustainability indicates two main reasons for addressing sustainability. One, alignment with strategic business goals. Two, growth opportunities. 8 years ago, the same study of McKinsey, the answers to why sustainability were: 1, reputation; 2, cost efficiency. So in 8-9 years' time, what a change. Strategy has surpassed reputation, and growth has surpassed cost saving. The good news is, for us here today, that B2C e-commerce is no exception to that sustainability-driven growth. E-commerce business, we all know it, weighs 600 billion in Europe. Cross-border is approximately 23-24% of that. That business is growing green. Sustainability is not a marketing tool anymore. It is a structural driver of success for the 30 years to come. And management is clearly now having one eye on environment impact and one eye on bottom line. This month, Nielsen, so in October 2019, published a very interesting survey which shows that 90% of the millennials are willing to pay more for products that are environmentally friendly. Most of you were this morning at the European Parliament, but a task force worked here in this floor on sustainability. And I can tell you that you could feel from the energy and the debates that sustainability is a big topic in any company represented here today. CBC Commerce has identified 10 approaches that drive a fast track towards sustainability. Today, this afternoon, in the 45-50 minutes, we will concentrate on 3 factors that probably represent the Pareto distribution, so the 20-80 distribution on this sustainability influence. And we'll have our panel discussion on 3 drivers. 1, design and eco-conception of products. 2, quality, quantity of packaging and shipping delivery methods. And 3, the returns and the management of those. To feed the debate with hands-on experience on these 3 topics, I am delighted to host a panel of participants who developed an expertise in cross-border e-commerce and in sustainability. I will like to call Eva Dalenstam, if you can please join the panel. Thank you for being with us, Eva. You are since this year Policy Officer, Circular Economy at the EU Commission. and you come with an extensive experience from your previous life at the Swedish Environmental Protection Agency and Swedish Environmental Management Council. Thijs Bosgoed, you are the founder in 2014 of the company Buybay, and you are the managing director of the company. Your company is embedded in the major e-commerce platforms such as bol.com, Fnac, Amazon, Realday, eBay, to develop an agile model of deals based on returns and the management of those returns. So thank you for being on our panel, Thijs. Cyril, Olivier, you are Chief Marketing and Digital Officer at Kiabi, a French international company that turns roughly 2 billion top line in what we could call entry price point, fashion-driven online, but also offline, with 500 physical shops in different countries, almost 20, 30 countries, and 70% of employees having equity positions in the capital of the company. So thank you for being here, Cyril. And I'm Guido Alvino. I'm delighted to chair this panel this afternoon. We will make time, if we can, for the audience to raise questions at the end of this panel discussion rather than having them on the fly. So the first topic is product design and eco-conception. And Cyril, again, thank you for being here. And the first question will be really for you. Product design is so important. I mean, it is the basis, it is the baseline of everything, even before raw materials, even before production. It impacts durability, it impacts repairability, it impacts reuse. So you guys, if I'm not mistaken, have something like 60 designers in Kiabi. You plan to be in 5 years at roughly 70% of your collection eco-design, in 10 years something like 100%. And my question would be, you have a positioning which is quite entry price point, and not only that, but the second thing is you're working with quite technical garments, because you address also your garments to very specific niches of the market, such as products for disabled children, post-operative breast cancer women garments, very quite unique niches in that quite wide range of products. So I guess in all these technical products, you don't have only organic cotton, you have elastomers, you have polyamides, you have polyesters. So can you give us a kind of inside view on how you guys design the product and what is the road to that 100% sustainability?
Okay. Everybody listen? Yeah?
Yes.
So I'm supposed to answer your 100 questions.
The first question will be for you, Cyril.
Well, yeah, we offer a fashion at affordable prices. So yes, the official answers of consumers is, yeah, we are ready to pay more for that. In the real life at that time, they are not so ready to pay more for that. So the main challenge for us is keeping affordable price for a quality, for eco-design. And thanks to, yes, our designer, but also thanks to the vendors we are working with, step by step we manage. Because as you said, we want to offer within 11 years, at the end of 2030, 100% of the offer. We are selling more or less 350 million pieces a year. So that's the big challenge, to have all these range of items eco-design. The main difficulty, as you said, is that there is no one answer for everything. So nearly each article is rethinking everything. So Karine and the rest of the team wanted me to come with concrete example. For example, when we have the jacket, we are selling more or less 150,000 pieces a year. The textile part is already eco-designed because we are doing it with 5 bottles recycled. But all the zipper, all the rest of the material is not eco anymore. And we didn't find at that time the material to do so. So being 100% and swearing it to the consumer that we have the tracking and the whole conception of the articles eco-design, it's nearly a wrong answer. So we have to go step by step. And the second difficulty is explaining to the consumer. Because eco-design for them, it's bio. Let's be bio. But bio is just a part of the answer. Many times it's just having, and for textiles, and all of us, we know that textiles is supposed to be the second more destroying industry in the planet. And not because of airplane, not because of the fuel we are consuming, but because of water. Because we are consuming lots of water on that. So step by step with this jean, the jean is the biggest one we are selling, 500,000 pieces. Yes, at that time we managed to be totally water saving on that. But again, all the iron part is not eco-design. So we need to, for the volume we have, we need to have time to find the vendors, but we are in the era of transparency and working with the vendor, because obviously Kiabi is not the only chain stores looking for that. So we also benefit of the competitors, because when we are in India, in Bangladesh or in China, we have big vendors who are used step by step to working with these kind of things. But as you said, the second part, and maybe the most difficult one, is explaining to the consumer what is buying. Because when we offer this t-shirt, which is totally bio for that time, the cotton is bio, everything is fine, for 4 euros, lots of people say, rubbish, it's not possible to offer that for 4 euros. But yes, it is. Because step by step, the whole industry is switching. So we manage, with the volume, we manage by having a 3 or 4 years plan with the vendor to have both engagement with everybody and to save the money and to save it. But to be honest, the first experience we have was pretty good with the existing consumer, because they really want to buy it for 4 euros. But for new customers, for the young generation, the buzz was not always good. Is that safe? Is that planet to sell a 4 euros t-shirt? Because when we talk about sustainability, and that's not the debate of today, but in sustainability, there's also the human part. So how can you sell a 4 euro t-shirt? Do you secure the salary in Bangladesh? Do you secure the salary in India? Do you secure the salary in China? So it's always, when you save one thing, you open another issue, and you have always explained, and lots of, yes, you have to teach, and you have to work with the vendor, with the partners, to educate the consumer. Because there are so many bad buzz, not always wrong, not always right, about textiles. And again, as you said, the answer is every time individual. So explaining that in a very simple way to any customers, it's quite difficult.
Well, thank you very much. This is very clear. So you showed an example of how from going from a jacket, which is probably polyester polyamide, to a T-shirt which is 100% organic cotton. And if you know that cotton is something like uses the conventional cotton uses something like 20% of pesticides used in the world for 3% of the surface or something. I don't think I'm mistaken with, I have these figures in the back of my mind. So this is why organic cotton has a huge influence, and organic cotton in India, if I'm not mistaken, is something like 4% of the surface of the total cotton consumption. Cotton. So 96% of cotton today is conventional. So I mean, but I like your transparency, saying don't dream. A polyamide is needed. A PET is needed. You need some technical. You need hand in a sweater. You need to give stability, and you cannot use only organic cotton. Which leads, sorry.
No, you can have capsule line. You can be very tricky on part of your production. But if you want to be globally responsible, you need times. In this kind of industry, we need between 5 and 10 years to have the whole chain available.
And this is your statement. So thank you, Cyril. Thanks very much. Giuseppe Grandinetti is not on our panel today. He had a problem with his plane coming from Italy, and he is from the company called Vibram. Vibram is a company that makes soles, shoe soles, and the well-known fingers, the 5 fingers shoes. So they're also, I mean, they start with a rubber, which is a natural rubber from Malaysia and Indonesia. But then to make a sole, and I'm not a specialist of soles, you need to go into vulcanization. And for using vulcanization, you need to put sulfur, and you need to cross-link the polymer through high temperature, and you need to put polyamides, and you need to put elastomers, and you need to put all kinds of chemical reaction in this vulcanization. And there you start with a natural product, and you transform it in something which is, I mean, it's more like a tire of a car, right? But you need that because at the end of the day, if you want to climb on a mountain, you need a shoe which has this physical and chemical resistance. Any comment on shoes? No, you're not. This is not your specialty, Cyril. No. Eva, let's remain on eco-conception. In the 80s, eco-label started in the organic food. Okay, a lot of eco-labels were created in the organic food. Then in the 90s, the EU launched the energy labels, for instance. Everybody knows the energy labels. When you buy a dishwasher, a washing machine, you have this A, B, C, D. Everybody knows it, and 86% of people in Europe use these labels. But this was created 25 years ago, 24 years ago. So in the meantime, the EU came with new eco-labels for white goods in 2014. So this is now getting really into the swing of things. But this is thanks to a long time work done a long time ago. But in the last 10 years, dozens of new eco-labels came up. A lot of new eco-labels came. And mainly in 2 areas. One in areas where legislation was weak and NGOs were pushing towards eco-labels, but also in areas where leading brands in B2B and B2C wanted to demonstrate their organic merits. Okay. Now, if you take just the textile industry, you have, in terms of eco-label, GOTS, Blue Angel, Fairtrade, Blue Sign, BCI, Cradle to Cradle, Naturtex, OCA, and half a dozen of other eco-labels. So now you start seeing also national initiatives. Last week in Germany, I don't know if you follow that, last week in Germany, the federal minister in Germany, Gerd Müller, launched a Grüner Punkt. Grüner Punkt is a kind of meta label that overlies, that covers other labels. So now you start to have 2 layers of labels. The United Nations are backing their own initiative with the SSI program. I mean, I guess most of us are not attorney at law in community law. And so my question to you, Eva, is what is your read and how would you guide us on this label and certainly on e-commerce best practices when it comes to eco-labels? So the question is, there are good labels. Some of these eco-labels are very much used, like the energy ones. But looking to the inflation of these labels, what is the best approach?
Hello?
Yes, it works. Just speak near the mic.
Yes. Well, there are different kinds of labels. There are the mandatory labels and there are the voluntary labels. So the energy labeling and eco-design, for example, those are mandatory. And just as an example, in October, the Commission published a new set of eco-design measures. And I can tell a bit more about those because this was also new requirements introduced regarding recyclability and repairability. I can tell a bit more about that later. But these voluntary labels, the EU, the Commission, has the EU Eco-label, which is recognized across the whole EU. And then we have these national labels as well. There is a proliferation of these labels.
There is a what, sorry? A proliferation.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. And we are working, the Commission is working on green claims. Companies claiming green aspects of the products. We want to push for reliable labels, type 1 eco-labels that also are certified by a third party. And we are also looking into strengthening the EU eco-labels collaboration with other type 1 eco-labels to make it easier for the consumer to find their way in this jungle of labels.
When we'll speak about this October 2019, the new legislation, when will this be enforced for in the shops? Is it 2021, 2023? What is it? Do you have a timing on that?
It was published on October 1st, it's for dishwashers and washing machines, refrigerators, displays, televisions, and it's about. This is the first time that the repairability criteria are introduced into these requirements. So, for example, to be concrete, spare parts shall be available for 7 to 10 years, depending on the product, and they should be delivered 10 to 15 days after the consumer has asked for this. The information should be accessed on a website, and there's another list of spare parts that they are obliged to have available for professional repairers.
Got it.
So this is coming, and also if you look at the staff working document from the Commission, mentions the possibility of eco-design also expanding to other product groups, non-energy related product groups.
So again, when we see the influence of the EU on legislation, I mean, when you guys push, I mean, the things budge. It takes years, but I mean, again, the eco-label example is a good one, where you started in the 90s and now it's common practice. When we look, speaking about sustainability, when we look to the quality and quantity of packaging, whether a product is well designed or not, one thing is sure: it is transported in a package. And we all know we have primary packaging, we have secondary packaging, we have tertiary packaging, which is the packaging on the pallets. A DSS Forbes Insight study analyzed 7 categories of products like toys, shoes, DIY, household, textiles, and arrived at the calculation in 2018 that 24% of the space in containers was empty. And this is just the first inbound phase. And then finally the goods reach the warehouses, and before being reshipped through e-commerce, there is the repacking. And there again, we speak of a void percentage in the packaging that varies from 18% for garments and shoes to 64% void emptiness in the tableware and glassware. So, Thijs, you must see a lot of goods from returns, because of course your business, we appreciate your business is also driven and only driven by returns. You see returns, of course, which are driven by the fact that the customer doesn't like the product, and we'll come to that later. But you have also returns that are driven by the fact that the products are damaged. Can you give us your insight and a guidance on what you see, and is there any best practice? Is there something that needs to be improved in protecting? And again, I know this is the basis of your model, but you see so many packaging coming back to to your company, and again, your company has been booming since 5 years from nothing to a company that really is completely recycling in terms of commercial channel these return goods. So what is your view on packaging, and have you seen an evolution in the last years, and what is your view?
Yeah, hello everyone. Yeah, I've seen a great evolution over the last couple of years in packaging. So I've been entering the e-commerce market about 10 years ago. I started the company 5 years ago. But if I look back in the last 10 years, yeah, product packaging was made for retail. That's how it all started. And then we started shipping retail packaging to customers, and that didn't work. And then the return increases because of this bad packaging. But if I look back over the last 2-3 years, and we give a lot of feedback direct to brands as well, how they can improve their packaging, how they can better protect.
Packaging being damaged. What is your? I understand you're not a packaging expert, but you are exactly at the right place to see all this stuff coming back, and you have warehouses full of these return goods. So what is your? If you had to put a ranking, what do you think are the top 2 or 3 things that you see when you have these return goods based on packaging issues?
Well, I think the biggest problem is being done by the shippers. So e-commerce is growing super fast, as you all know. Yeah, the biggest pain is delivering on time, and I think DPD is here today as well. You can ask them as well. They've been growing super fast, so they're on very tight schedules. Yeah, and I'm not sure if they handle every individual package, and I'm not just talking about DPD. I'm talking about the whole. I'm talking about all of them. I think they're super tight on schedule. They do not always take the best care of an individual product, and we see that a lot of these products are coming back because people just don't accept them.
Got it. Yes, and I mean another person who is directly in contact with the product. I mean, Cyril, when you see all the the amount of wraps, foams, and packaging, cardboard, nuts, airbags, of course, for retail fashion it's less the case. But how do you guys work on that topic in terms of the challenges? Of course, to have mechanical resistance, humidity resistance, water resistance, and yet be light. And what have you seen as an evolution in the last years when it's? And Kiabi, I mean, you are a big player. You are a very big player on the market. So, what do you have? Research team? Do you work with cardboard manufacturers? Do you work with polyolefin manufacturers? Do you work with institutes? Do you have your own internal tests? Do you have designers? Do you work with what we could call standard packaging or made to measure and cut to measure? What are the initiatives that you guys have?
Surely it's the most tricky question for us, because that's the key point of the industry with the business model we have, because every order is around 40 euros, 7 euros each items, so you can imagine the packaging cost on that. So again, and maybe sustainability can also be an opportunity and not a difficulty, because the image for the consumer is that paper boxes are much more affordable, much more fashion than plastics. But it's not sure that the oil balance and the pollution balance of a box in paper is better than plastic. So we are working on both, means at that time, so we are in a very low-cost industry for fashion. So can you imagine that each article is not with an individual package? For the web, of course, for the store it's different. But for the web, all the articles come in the unique plastic box and sent to the consumer. Hopefully, because we are making some textiles. It's only true for that, and we don't have heavy items. So what was maybe 3 or 4 years ago a bad image for the public comparing with Zara, with H&M, more and more it becomes to be pretty good, because people say, oh, that's great. You don't consume much plastic for every article, and we work on a package that you can reuse. And because lots of the customers are doing second-hand market and things, we write on that please, instead of getting rid of it, reuse it to make your own business, and it works. So it's not sure that
so we are working on both, going to paper, but recycling papers, putting in van, burning in somewhere else, is that so available comparing with plastic that we can use and maybe put into the garbage? Of course, and I'm looking for the European law, the day that when we will say rubbish, let's forget plastic, that will be very, very difficult for us at that time, but we have to work on both.
And this leads exactly to the you wanted to say Thijs? No, okay. This leads exactly to the next point is we've heard this morning Zalando. Zalando is working in Scandinavia, in Sweden, on a test since a couple of months, where they basically work with a company called Repack, and the topic, and Jacinta, please jump in if I'm mistaken, but the topic is here to reuse, to send to the customer a packaging which is then reused and shipped back to Zalando. So it's either shipped back empty, or it is shipped back with the return goods. So this is and I've seen a picture of that. Well, it's quite a big, I would call it a big plastic envelope to make it very simplistic, and so the trial is on. I asked Jacinta if she was aware of the test, and she said yes. But of course, it's only 2 months old, so the takeaways of that test are not known yet. But this corresponds exactly to what you were saying, Cyril. And there are a lot of initiatives. Speaking about that, I have here next to me a box of a company called Bivolino.com, which is specialized in shirts made to measure, so that you buy on the web. So it's all bespoke shirts, and since I think 6 years, 7 years, they made a study with the University of Leuven in Belgium, where they basically put on each pack the CO2 equivalent impact. Because based on the plans, and I've seen the spreadsheets, it's quite impressive the number of calculations they made to get to this result. But so you have on each box the CO2 impact of each shipment, and this is done since 6-7 years. And on the other side, so on one hand you see that, and on the other hand, I read a Forbes Insight survey that says that 52% of the companies that they contacted that had a turnover revenue above 500 million euro consider that packaging is not a component of customers' experience, which is quite amazing. 52 still consider today that packaging is not a dimension that customers consider. So yes, finding eco-friendly packaging is now priority number one. There is a study from IT Incel, a consulting company that interviewed 340 retailers, e-retailers in 2019, and finding eco-friendly packaging is now priority number 3 in cross-border e-commerce, with 78% positive answers. And this comes after reduction of transport cost, 91%, and speed of order preparation, 82%. So number 3 is e-commerce, supply chain is packaging, eco-friendly packaging. So I'm coming back on that because this was one of the questions. What would you say, Cyril? It's because your answer was wishy-washy. Cardboard is good, but plastic is good. But do you see, if you had to make a kind of choice and on what you see, would you say today the trend is towards paper, carton-based products, or is it more towards polyolefins and eco-friendly plastic? What is your feel? And again, it's something that I appreciate. You're not as packaging specialist, but just on what you see based on the huge volumes.
First, and we can share that. The answer will be different regarding each industry, I'm sure. But regarding textiles, I think that will be a kind of organic plastic.
like potatoes and something like this, more than paper, I guess, because paper is lots of volume for textiles again. But there will be new material. At that time, we work on that. To give you an idea, is 6 times more expensive than the plastic we are using at that time. But we know that it should be the way. So because the weight is better, the volume is better, and again for our industry, it's easier to work on that than boxes. But that's our point of view, and I guess maybe Zara will give another answer. But for us, changing for a kind of plastic, another kind of plastic, should be the better way.
And this is something that you have triggered?
Yeah.
Okay.
Even if 6 times at that time, we don't know how we can do it, but we have to work on that.
Speaking about returns, we were speaking about returns a few minutes ago. A 2019 Narva study on online returns assessed 3,519 consumers in 5 countries, UK, France, Germany, Australia. And the takeaways are that a small percentage of shoppers drive a disproportionate percentage, and packaging and returns are still in their kids' shoes, as we say in Dutch, and development will be huge in that area. And third is that we have addressed here 3 topics out of 10 that CBC Commerce identified as perennial sustainability factors. The task force this morning identified an 11th topic to address when it comes to sustainability. So, Eva, Thijs, Cyril, thank you very much for your insight.
Can I have some
Sure, Eva. You want to jump in? Yes.
So I'm very happy to hear that you have a task force on sustainability. And as you know, we're moving into a new political cycle. We have a new parliament this year, where there's an incoming new commission. And I don't know if you've heard or read the President-elect Ursula von der Leyen's political guidelines, but one of her priorities, and her first priority, is a Green Deal for Europe. And this is the first time ever that the environment is the first priority of the Commission. So it's very good that you have this task force, because a lot of things is going to happen these coming years. And when in regards to circular economy, and we're going to step up in the waste hierarchy, and we're going to look at new sectoral approaches. We have focused on plastics these previous years, and it's still going to be a focus. And of course, the new measures regarding waste legislations, upcoming revision of the Packaging and Packaging Waste Directive. But we're going to look into sectors like textiles and food, construction. And I do encourage all of you to take part of this new political cycle, because the first Circular Economy Action Plan was a success because of stakeholder engagement also. So I invite you to the European Circular Economy Stakeholder Platform. Submit your best practices, and engage in the dialogue forum that we have there.
And the rate of circular economy, if you look Europe, I mean, if you take glass, the recyclability of glass is very high. In Europe, it's like 75%. If you look paper, it's like something like 83%. But then, once you have taken out these 2 or 3 categories, then you drop to levels which are extremely low. And we spoke about plastic. Right? Well, interestingly enough, the country which performs best in plastic recyclability is the Czech Republic, where you would never think about the Czech Republic when it comes to, well, it is, but they are best in class and are with 52% of circular or recyclability of plastic, and are really the champions in Europe. So you're right to say that there is, putting that as a priority will push, and as I was saying, once the EU Commission start to legislate, and the EU Parliament and you guys went to the EU Parliament this morning, this has a huge influence on what will happen, not in 6 months, not in 1 year, but in the 3, 4, 15 years to come. So this is why I would encourage to follow, and we all feel it. The EU has had in the last years a big influence, but as you said, with the new Commission entering, this influence will be very, very, very material. So Eva, Thijs, Cyril, thanks again for your time. And I'd like to, before giving you a hand, I'd like to just introduce our next panel and last panel, which is which is a B2B case presented by the company Manutan with Ramon, MD, and Henry, Chief Digital Officer, Manutan. But guys, thank you for being here, and I think we can give you a big hand. Thanks a lot.